So thank you everyone for coming out today. I'm Kelly Ng. I'm the founder of Avatara Yoga and Integrative Health. And today we will be discussing virtual yoga and healthy aging. Now, before we begin, I'd like for all of us just to take a moment you can close your eyes. We're going to do a quick little meditation breathing exercise, and literally it's just to try to get us grounded and so that we can all come together. All right, so feel free to sit comfortably. You can sit with your legs crossed. You can sit on your shins. If those of you, anyone that's lying down, you're welcome to lie down. Just close your eyes. You can rest your hands in your lap or over top of your knees. Some of you may feel the need to bring your hands into prayer. Just rest your body down. And take a nice inhale through your nose. And a gentle cleansing breath out of your mouth or out of your nose. Releasing all of the stale air. Start to begin to focus in on your breath. Feel your heartbeat, softening your body. Notice if there are any thoughts or worries that are arising. And if there are, just softly come back to your breath. And we're going to begin deeper diaphragmatic breathing. Take a big breath in and another cleansing breath out. Exhaling all of the air out of your belly, out of your lungs. As we begin, we're going to softly begin to breathe in through our nose and start to trace your breath down the back of your throat, down into your chest and lungs, and start to feel the inhales, the expansion of your chest and lungs, the oxygen flowing all the way down into your belly, your diaphragm. Start to feel the expansion of your belly. And then on your exhales, slowly trace the breath flowing all the way up and out through your nose or through your mouth. Continue to breathe, feeling again the inhales flowing in, just following the breath flowing into your body. Start to really feel the expansion of the air flowing down, observing that breath, flowing all the way down into your belly, your diaphragm, and maybe even into your back body, feeling the expansion all the way to your back ribs. And as you exhale, again, slow exhales as you trace the air flowing all the way up, 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 and out through your nose or your mouth. Last time here, as we're breathing in, tracing the air, following the breath into our body, just noticing our body softening, flowing all the way down, feeling the expansion, and then slowly exhale all the air out, up, 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 and out. And as you get to the end, come back to your natural breath. take a moment for yourself. Send some good vibrations out to your fellow attendees here. You can bring your chin down to your chest and take a few blinks to open your eyes. Thank you so much for that moment. Before we begin, so as I mentioned, administratively, it's going to be interactive for those of you that have just signed in. We are recording this. You are welcome to turn your cameras on if you would like. I have muted everyone, but you do have the opportunity. You can unmute should you have a question at the end of class. Throughout, I will be asking some questions which will make it a little bit more interactive. If you would like to vocally ask a question, I would ask that you write your name in the chat box, and then I will know that you would like to say it orally. If you do not want to, if you do have a question, you don't want to say it outright, then you can write your question directly in the chat box and I will try to answer that. Okay. So I would like to send a big thank you to Langara College and the yoga teacher training and the therapy program at Langara for hosting this event. Thank you to Nicole and Yvonne for helping put this together. And again, thank you to all of you for joining. I believe this is going to be a fun learning experience for all of us. I'm hopeful anyway. All right. So how's everyone feeling? Is everyone feeling good? Feeling good today? All right, excellent. Yeah, on that note, we're going to veer into the current circumstances this year. So we have all experienced a big change this year. And it is probably safe to say that things have changed, definitely. And for most of us, the change occurred quite suddenly when it came to our ability to practice yoga. And for those of us that are teachers or therapists on this call, that this was a bit of a sudden change for all of us. Due to the circumstances, it forced many of us to have to look into alternative options because many studios, of course, schools, clinics, gyms, they ended up closing briefly. And some now have reopened, but things are still not the same. And we can probably all agree that it's definitely not the same from this time last year. So initially, for me, I was a little resistant, a little fearful of the uncertainty and concerned for how I will be able to continue teaching. And after some deep breaths, lots of yoga practice, meditation, I started to see the situation as an opportunity to address my fears and pursue an online virtual teaching experience. So before we go into the discussion on the virtual online platform for teaching, for therapy, for practicing, I'd like to start our discussion around healthy aging. And so this is going to go to, now I'm going to ask you all a question, is what does it mean to be healthy to you? And how do you believe that you would define healthy living versus healthy aging? And you're welcome again to put it in the chat, and you can just sort of write a brief things in the chat and I will read it out. So this is the part where I'd like to hear from some of you. All right, so I'm just going to wait for some comments in the chat box. And if I don't get anyone, I'm going to call out on someone. No, I'm just kidding. Because I know quite a few people on here. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not going to call anyone out. But if anyone has any thoughts, so again, what does it mean to be healthy to you? And how do you believe that perhaps how you would define healthy living or healthy aging? It can be very brief. It can be a little longer. All right. Okay. All right, so I got a comment. Someone said, I think healthy living means living a balanced life. Excellent. All right. Health is about keeping the aches and pains at bay as you age. Okay, and from healthy living, for me, healthy living is making sure our mental health is balanced, eating and exercising, feeling connected to others. Awesome. Okay, and Katrina, you can unmute yourself, Katrina, and feel free to answer the question.
Yes, healthy living for me has always been important, but much more so now, and especially this past year with everything that's gone on. And my health is hugely important, but balancing my mental health with my physical health and being able to do the yoga and meditation to really help ground me through this just crazy time.
Yeah.
So,
All right. Thank you so much. So thanks for that, that comment. And we do have another one. So being appreciative for being healthy mentally and physically, as well as living adventurously. Oh, amazing. That's great. All right. So now I'm going to go and actually give you guys some definitions. So I'm actually going to say, so this actually led me, this question, I actually was posing to healthcare professionals. Part of it, the reason is that I do feel that everyone has a varied definition on what they believe to be living healthy, healthy living, healthy aging. And so, as some of you know, I study aging and gerontology in addition to studying yoga. And so with this, it kind of led me into sort of posing this question of, well, what does really healthy mean? And what does healthy living versus healthy aging mean? And so this question led me into trying to find a definition. And I'm going to give you the definition of healthy living from the World Health Organization and from our government of Canada. And it's just a summarized version of it. So from the World Health Organization, they define healthy living as a healthy lifestyle is a way of living that lowers the risk of being seriously ill or dying early. It is also about physical, mental, and social well-being. Their belief is that if you adopt a healthy lifestyle, you become more of a positive role model, especially for children, and it can help to change their behavior, improving people's lives to help them live longer. From the Government of Canada, the Government of Canada looked at it from a population level and an individual level. So at a population level, they see healthy living as practices of population groups that are consistent with supporting, improving, maintaining, and or enhancing life. So very macro level. Versus from an individual perspective, healthy living is the practice of health enhancing behaviors. Simply put, living in healthy ways, implying physical, mental, and spiritual capacity to make healthy choices. They have a strategy plan that focuses on healthy eating, physical activity, and the relationship to healthy weights. Now then I was actually looking into exploring, well, what does healthy aging mean? Is it the same as healthy living? And the definition from the World Health Organization is that healthy aging is the process of developing and maintaining the functional ability that enables well-being in older age. It's about creating the environments and opportunities that enable people to be and do what they value throughout their lives. Being free of disease or infirmity is not a requirement, because when the condition is controlled, it can have little influence on their well-being. The government of Canada didn't exactly have a very definitive definition on healthy aging, but I did find one through a study that was done back in 2006. And they defined healthy aging as a lifelong process of optimizing opportunities for improving and preserving health and physical, social, and mental wellness, independence, quality of life, and enhancing successful life course transitions. It's a comprehensive view of health that includes physical, mental, social, and spiritual well-being. Whew, a mouthful, right? Like, that's a lot. Let's just take a breath, because that was a lot. All of this is like so wordy. It's hard for me to digest as well. And so, which I figured out, this makes it so much more complicated than just saying, well, this is what healthy means, and we all have the same definition of what healthy means. So, like I said, I sort of pursued some healthcare professionals asking their opinion. And I appreciate everyone here that wrote in their comments. And as you can see, it varies as to what our definition is of healthy. Healthy living, healthy aging. And so that essentially is it, that I started realizing that we all kind of interpret it somewhat differently. But I would say most people, most of us, and unfortunately with media, a lot of us view being healthy, we attribute it to a lot more to physical activity, physical attributes, like being thin or like being young and youthful. Now, because of this, and this is what, again, I noticed, and as I'm sure most of us notice and observe in media, I really wanted to look into this from a different angle. And also because I am studying aging and gerontology, I don't necessarily fully agree with media all the time in that sense. So I wanted to sort of explore this further. Now, what we know for sure is that our life expectancy has definitely expanded. We know that within these last 100 years, the average age of life expectancy is roughly around 73, and depending on gender, and there's lots of factors that will play a part into this. So for a lot of us, I would say our grandparents' generation probably were the first people to sort of live longer. So the generation before the baby boomers, let me say that, okay, is likely the first generation that we're sort of probably seeing that are living longer. We're noticing it and seeing it in, we'll see a news report saying people are living until their 80s, 90s, into their hundreds. But baby boomers are actually one of the first generation where a majority of our study for gerontology is really coming into play, especially because people are living longer and they're living healthier. So they fully are living this healthy aging. So this study is kind of coming from the baby boomer generation. So some questions that I had was, can we be healthy in middle age or older age? What does that mean for healthcare professionals, such as yoga therapists and yoga teachers, to practice and teach healthy living as we age? Let me just check to see if anyone has any comments. Okay. All right. So from this sort of like line of questioning that I had for myself and hypothesizing, I guess you can say, is I sort of had to come up with my own definition of what healthy aging kind of means to me, and also based on my research. So here's how I define healthy aging. So I believe healthy living and healthy aging are one and the same. If we are breathing, we are both living and aging simultaneously. I believe to be healthy means to live an optimal body, mind, social, spiritual life through learning, awareness, acceptance, prevention, and collective connection. It's an ongoing process and practice to help us raise behaviors that enhance our joy, wisdom, faith, self-control, respect, kindness, and love for a fully integrated well-being. So what I know and what I've definitely seen is that in order for us, we need individual self-care, self-love. This helps us lead into caring for others, caring more for others, caring for our environment. And the analogy that I like to use is the oxygen mask. Oxygen mask on the airplane. We need to put the oxygen mask on ourselves first before we can help others. And it's the same sort of analogy. All right, now I'm going to go into why, based on my belief and based on my definition of healthy aging, is why I actually teach yoga. And so how yoga came to me is first let me step back for a second. So I see yoga as a very holistic therapy. It's an important practice for healthy aging. You know, of course, we know that there are other practices and other ways that people can age very well and live a very long life and live very happy life, whether they practice yoga or not. But I think aspects of the yoga, from, you know, the physical movement to the mental health side, it is a holistic therapy. I also like to sometimes integrate, for those of you that are practice with me, that you will have also seen, sometimes I like to add in like qigong into the yoga practice, and some people add tai chi as well. So to go into how I even came to yoga, I didn't love it right away. So my personal experience was, I had started practicing yoga, or at least a friend introduced me to yoga, asked me to join with her into a program, and I didn't really enjoy it. I have a very somewhat type A personality, and one of the things is that, you know, like many of us, we kind of have, like many people out there, we have sort of this desire for like physical activity, and we attribute, of course, as I mentioned, healthy with like this physical activity where it has to be challenging, there has to be a big sweat, it has to feel hard. It's almost as if, you know, I felt like for me that it wasn't good for me if I wasn't like almost beating myself up, and it wasn't good enough. So doing sort of the calming, that was not going to happen right away. So how I came to loving yoga is that over the years, it just kept getting reintroduced for whatever reason. I don't know if it's like serendipitous, but kept coming back into my life. And so I continued to practice yoga. not always consistently, but it just kept coming back in. Now, how I came to teaching yoga, this kind of leads into, I started practicing more and more. And my practice was, I felt kind of stagnant, and I wasn't sure, what else I needed to do. And I started to ask the questions of, how can I advance my practice? And there was a sequence of events that ended up leading me to take yoga teacher training. And as some of you know, Langara offers yoga teacher training and a yoga therapy program. And so these institutions now that are offering this is actually, what I'm finding is, like, not only helps people to advance their practice, but really helps people to start to be in tune with themselves. And of course, what happened for me is I found a love for teaching. And again, that wasn't my intention when I took the yoga teacher training. It was really just about advancing my practice. I had no intention of teaching whatsoever. So I don't know if any of you believe in, like, signs or synchronicities, but if these weren't signs that I had to become a yoga teacher, I don't know what else is. So I signed up for yoga teacher training. I hadn't started yet. And before I started, I randomly had these strangers coming up to me, just randomly on the street, asking me questions, like asking me if I was a yoga teacher, assuming I was. I had one person even give me their card to ask if I would work at their gym. And I was like, oh no, I'm not a yoga teacher, or I'm not a teacher. And she said to me, she goes, oh, you look like a yoga teacher. And I was like baffled, because I was like, I don't even have a yoga mat with me. It was just very random, like so random that I thought, this is really odd. And what led me to teaching, I still didn't get it at that point. Let's just put it that way. I still didn't get the signs, but I taught my first class. That was terrible. I was like, I couldn't even get an hour of class, but I had this really bizarre sensation that all I knew was that I had to do this again, and that I absolutely loved it. And so over the course of this, I graduated, I finished, I started teaching right away. And over the course of these last few years, and within the last 5 years, I've taken a lot of different courses, programs to really help advance my teaching. And, one of the things that, of course, that I've also been exploring is not just teaching through an actual class, but teaching like this. So in this type of experience, doing actual interactive sessions, teaching on, like, presentations, through letting people know about the evidence-based research that's actually happening now. And so this is how I ended up teaching, and why I endorse yoga for healthy aging, for healthy living. I learn from all of you. As much as I'm guiding you and teaching you, I'm also a practitioner. And I believe we're all teachers and practitioners at the same time. We learn from each other, and it's this, like, mutual connection, this energy sharing that we offer each other. I also see that yoga is a form of therapy. And as I mentioned, Langara offers the yoga therapy program, which I'm also part of the faculty of. But I see this as a way of prevention as well, which unfortunately, with medical science, we know that prevention is hard to actually qualify, but I believe that yoga can actually help to prevent. And yoga is a great therapy treatment, to help us through illness, disease, trauma, stress, depression, and just living in general. So on that note, now I'm going to throw the floor back to you because I just talked a whole lot. What health benefits do you experience from yoga practice? All right. All right, so some people are saying better joint mobility, peace of mind, calming of the mind, calmer mind. Oh, this is a good one. Breathing for asthma, being in the moment, and stretching. So it's like, I'm going to guess that means like finding it's helpful for asthma, which is really good. Increased self-awareness. Amazing. All right, thank you for the answers. Okay, now we're going to start to veer into, now we're looking at health benefits, which is great, and I love a lot of your comments here. So some of you here have practiced with me both in person and online, and I definitely know. Oh, and we have one other one, feeling stronger. That's great. So I definitely know that there's benefits of in-person therapy and in-person yoga classes. And some of the benefits that I see of an in-person treatment, in-person classes, in-person therapy is the human connection. I see that there's also this collective energy, and some of you might maybe, and I know for some of my clients here that's true. They actually agree with this, is that there's this collective energy. We're sharing this space together, and we feed off of each other's vibrations, especially if anyone has, we practice meditation or breathing exercises, or if anyone's ever practiced chanting, you will definitely feel the vibration sharing when we're in a collective space, we're all together. I also find in an in-person class, in-person therapy, it can be very motivating and inspiring. So we can be inspired by, a fellow practitioner beside us. We can feel motivated by the entire class, to kind of push us along, make us try even harder, help calm ourselves more. So, and of course, the last thing that I will make note of is in person, is that social element. Is that the ability to actually, chit chat before and after class, and just have that social experience that we're all in it together, we're here together, and there is that social connection and aspect and element that we do get from in person. Thank you for the comment. I love chanting, oming in groups is amazing, and I agree with you on that. That's one of the things that I also agree with is the ohms, the chanting, even sometimes it's just you start to hear the breath work, and then we all kind of happen in unison, and it's so amazing to feel. Now back to the current situation. It totally shook us up. I mean, I'm going to guess everyone can agree to this, that this year definitely has shaken things up for us. That for me, the situation of not having the access to in-person was somewhat actually of a happy coincidence. For me personally, I was forced to transition to online. So I had been debating for quite some time on doing like virtual online recordings or videos. And some of my hesitations are things like, you know, what am I going to look like online? How am I going to sound? You know, are people going to actually care to watch? And it's sort of all these things that, you know, our mind kind of just sort of runs away with. And so it prior to this circumstance in this year, it was always in the back of my mind, contemplating doing this, you know, being asked about doing it, but not doing it. And so this for me was a happy coincidence in that it really forced me to have to do this. And one of the biggest reasons why I chose to continue teaching and then teaching online was because I truly knew that this was a really important time for all of us, for myself included, to continue practicing. And I knew that I had to keep teaching yoga because the added stress, the anxiety, the uncertainty, the fear, it was really going to drive us into really needing yoga to help keep us sort of some sanity, some normalcy. And so I started doing the online, but it forced me to have to adapt. Despite some resistance, some denial, some fear, you know, some increased stress, I ended up doing, which I have to say has been absolutely amazing, and it's been really great. So for those of us that are here that are yoga teachers and therapists, one of the things is that we know that we have to adapt. We have to adapt to different environments, and this was definitely one of them. And some questions and concerns that arose for me were things like, well, how do I keep students? How do I keep clients? How do I keep that human connection? What do I need to do to encourage participation through a virtual online platform? Should I just record it, or should it be live? Basically, a lot of questions on what to do and how to do this. And then specifically too, I was a little concerned with, you know, if I am teaching older adults, is this going to be a hindrance? Is this going to be a barrier for people to want to attend? And so now another question is a question that I really started to ask myself was, can we experience the same health benefits of an in-person, so an in-person experience with an online yoga practice? So do we get the same health benefits? So my question is anyone here teaching or practicing online or in person or both? So if you are either a teacher or a practitioner, I'm just curious to know if you are doing online or in person or both. And a few of you, if you can, just write that in. I do know some of you online that are doing both. So some I know are just doing online at the moment. So all right, in person. Okay, so someone's still doing in-person. I know that there's a few of you that doing it online. Oh, great, and online and some YouTube videos, I'm guessing. All right. Okay, and then some people are, you know, have both in-person and online experience. Okay, so the transition from in-person to virtual. Here are some things that we all need to consider. Is for those of us that are teaching and doing therapy, should we do this live versus recording? And actually a question that I have for all of you is, what do you prefer? Like, do you prefer live, this in-person experience through the online, or do you prefer, you know, like someone said that they have YouTube, they watch some YouTube videos, or are you indifferent? Okay, so some people are just saying live, some are indifferent to it. So both seem to be good, I'm going to guess. Okay. All right, thank you for answering. And another thing that we have to consider when we go from in-person to virtual is, of course, the technology, the hardware, the software, the cybersecurity. Oh, thank you, Gideon, for your comment. This is a great comment. Live is more energetic. That's actually a really great comment, and we'll come back to that in a second. So technology issues, internet connection if you are doing it live, and speed. How are you going to connect with people? Via laptop, iPad, smartphone? Are we going to use cameras? Do you need a tripod, a microphone? What kind of video conferencing applications are you going to use? You know, there's so many questions, like, you know, thankfully we have that as an option, but like, are we going to use Zoom, GoToMeeting, Adobe? What type are we going to use? So there's a lot of questions if you are a teacher or therapist, is trying to pick the right one that is going to be fitting for your audience and your clients. The space. So actually, maybe you guys can kind of see here. So I'm going to show you. So this is my yoga space. So I have my yoga space in here. Thankfully, I have this space. I have a tripod, I've got my equipment, but this is not always available to everyone, right? Like having a space to actually be able to practice. For those of us that are teachers, therapists, having the space to actually, so that you can set everything up, is not always available. So that's something that we definitely need to consider, and the type of equipment that you need as an instructor, as a teacher, and the equipment that we're requesting or requiring for students is really important as well, because for some of you, you know that most of the classes, it's not necessary to have to use props, whether it's blocks, straps, bolsters, you know, dowels, or anything of the sort. But for certain classes and for yin, it's definitely more advantageous to have that equipment. So those are also some things to consider. Communication. How do you plan to communicate with your clients, with your students, before and after classes? Collecting payment, of course, if you're doing it yourself. So as an entrepreneur, you need to think about all the marketing aspects, the sales aspects, the revenue, So all of that kind of plays in. The logistics, of course, also needs to play a part. If there's technical and customer support, and so that kind of goes into like the technology, but are you going to hire someone to actually help someone with that, or are you going to be doing that yourself? Tracking people's attendance. And one thing that I think is really important is yoga etiquette. So online yoga etiquette versus in-person yoga etiquette. So this is something that a question that I'm going to pose to all of you is, so what are some things that you value? I don't know if should I say value is the right word, but on yoga etiquette. So name some yoga etiquette that that either in person or online that you think is you know, that are good for like house rules or setting guidelines, etc. Some of you might not think that there's any, and then I'll talk to you about the ones that I believe that we need to set, at least for my classes anyway. Okay, not coming in late. A minimum of courtesy. In class, no interruption. At home, there's phones, doors, traffics, etc. Yeah, that's true. That's very true. So that actually is a great point that was made. So this is where it's hard with like in-person versus virtual is like this, where it kind of leads us into when we're teaching or we're doing therapy or even as practitioners, is like, how do we manage this, you know, all kind of being under the same type of courtesy or following the same type of yoga etiquette. Full attention is a good one. Oh, don't step on other yoga mats and listening and not talking. Okay. those are good. So I will come to that, and the reason that is that I'm it's a bit of I laugh at that a little bit because I'll tell you why in a second. So I'm going to go back to making the comment about that was made on doing a live class is more energetic. And I love that you said this, because this kind of goes with what we were talking about with the benefits of the social and collective energy. But on top of that, that kind of falls back into when we talk about this online yoga etiquette as well. When it's live, when you're doing a recording on YouTube, it doesn't really matter because there's no real interaction. So, but when we're live, there's people that are here, right? Like if your video's on, then we're all seeing each other. I do definitely like the comment of not coming in late as well. And so how does that impact us, like as practitioners, and for those of us that are teachers and therapists, like how does that impact us? And for me, I'd have to say, you know, I love the collective energy. And I love that you said, like I said, I love that you said it was energetic. But coming with that energy, it also can, if someone comes in super late, that can change my energy because I can see someone's popped in, or I can hear someone's popped in. And if someone is, you know, on the phone, it can be very distracting for me as an instructor, because if I can see you, then I can see you're not focused and you're you know, on the phone. In an in-person setting, I think we could all agree that, you know, a cell phone, someone texting during class is definitely probably not wanted, right? Like someone texting or answering a phone call or anything like that is probably not wanted. Now, I would like to say to you that, oh, definitely people would not do that, but I've definitely had people do that in class. Um, and yeah, and that kind of leads to us as teachers, like, what do you do? And I know for me, I don't have, I'm fine with having to talk to someone, you know, after the class, or even like in that moment to, you know, please put away your phone. But I know lots of yoga teachers that have challenges with this, is that the confrontation of asking someone to kind of follow a rule or guideline. Um, and and you know, maybe even sometimes I've had practitioners just tell someone beside them, you know, please put away your phone. You know, they're doing it for you, kind of a thing, because it disrupts them as well, right? Like, as we probably all can agree, as a practitioner, if someone's beside you answering the phone or texting or something, it can be distracting. Um, so so with the yoga etiquette, online versus in class, this has been something that's come up for me, um, is how do we manage that? So, you know, that kind of goes with the comment that is made: in class, there's less interruption, versus at home, we can definitely have more interruption, right? Like, it's okay for me, like right now, like I have all of you muted. So if you have an interruption, I technically can't hear it, or sometimes I can see it, but not always. So that can be, you know, a negative for you as a practitioner, for sure. Um, you know, maybe it's a matter of having to turn off your phone. But if you have a landline, it's probably not easy to turn off your phone. You know, someone comes to the door, it's still a distraction. Yes, there's traffic. As you guys have heard from me, I live downtown, so we definitely hear traffic. So how do we play this etiquette? Some of the stuff that like is uncontrollable. It's really the stuff that we can control. So happily, in online yoga, we're usually by ourselves, unless we have like a partner that we're with, but it's not as many people. And so there's probably not the there probably won't be anyone that's going to step on our yoga mats. And thank you for that comment, because that is definitely, I have to say, one of my pet peeves as well in class, is people stepping on other people's mats. But in an online, we don't have to worry about that so much. And as an instructor, I have made comments that, you know, please don't step on other people's mats. And I'm going to bring this up. Some people don't, it doesn't matter to them. And I'm sure some of you will have comments could have comments on this. My reasoning is that our mat, so in, I guess you can say somewhat traditional yoga etiquette, is the mat is their space. So it's like your personal space. And so it's basically trying to respect other people's space. And that's sort of the theory behind why you don't really want to step on someone's yoga mat. It's like stepping on that person. But I see it from more of like also from a hygiene way, is we put our face down onto our mats, right? Like, I see some laughs. So we put our face down, our mouth down onto the mat, and we really don't want someone's dirty feet walking on the mat, and then I have to go and put my mouth onto the mat. So that's where I would say, for yoga etiquette, you know, don't step on the mats. But in a virtual space, we don't really have to deal with that. The listening and not talking. Yeah, that one's an interesting one. Sometimes I like it as a teacher sometimes if, you know, people laugh or if they make a little kind of chirpy comment sometimes, right? Like it's still that sort of social part. But for the most part, everyone's listening. And I appreciate that sometimes. I'm not sure if every practitioner does. So, but I think sometimes it's like, it's welcoming because maybe someone makes a, they're feeling really challenged and they make a like an observation or a comment, and it can sometimes bring some laughter, and so that's the part that I'm open to. Yeah, so I guess that's up for interpretation as to the talking part. On that note, now I'm going to go into, so thank you for sharing your yoga etiquette. There is definitely more yoga etiquette. And I think as a practitioner, one of the things, or sorry, not a practitioner, as a teacher, sometimes we actually need to write it out and let people know of the etiquette. And with online, I think I understand that this is one thing that I think I need to do. I need to either post on the website or, send out to everyone just to say, here are some things, some rules and some basically basic yoga etiquette for online. Because I think this is somewhat new for us, but to let everyone know that this is what the expectation is and what's going to happen. Yeah, so something for me to ponder and something for all of you yoga teachers and therapists to consider. And I'm going to go through some positive and negatives of teaching online. So again, I'm taking it from a perspective of teachers and therapists. And so the negative is that there's a potential loss of clients. Finding a home space, both for a teacher and for the practitioner as well. If people, and I do know this firsthand, that there are definitely, oh, thank you for that. Oh, I never actually even thought about that. I'm going to come to that point in a moment. So finding a home space can be challenging for some people, right? Like some of us live in a home where we have, partners and children, and having your own sort of like special yoga space is not always available. So, which can lead to a loss of being able to practice, especially practicing live. Having the equipment and virtual platform to utilize. So some people perhaps, they don't have the hardware, so you don't have a computer system, or you don't have all the yoga equipment like the mats or the blocks or any of that to actually be able to practice at home. Doing it online, there's some of us have an aversion to technology. We're just not comfortable with it. We don't like it. So there's actually that as well. And I definitely have that, especially with, with an older audience as well. There's definitely more of an aversion to technology that can take place. So initially, I would say moving to online, there was a bit of a loss of connection, and there was that loss of collective energy. So that's where I would say that for me was a bit hard, and I'm sure for many of you that are practicing, that lack of in-person there was that sort of feeling of loss that could have existed, and now we're kind of getting maybe hopefully a little bit more used to the online experience. With those of us that are teachers, the negative could be the self-management requirements and the entrepreneurship requirements. It also could have been a loss of income. So for some people that didn't choose to teach online or provide therapy online, there was the potential of a loss of being able to teach and loss of income. And then some altogether they just weren't able to do it online, so they had to stop teaching. And so those are some of the negatives. And this is a really great point someone made in the chat, so thank you so much, is one of the negatives from a practitioner's standpoint is there's no hands-on adjustments. So yeah, I would agree that that is definitely a negative. On that point, I have to say, it's also as an instructor, I can only give verbal cues, and I can only see how the camera, based on how the camera is set up. So if the camera is set up differently, then, you know, I might have a bad angle. So if I'm giving a cue and I think that this is helping with the alignment, it might not be. And so that is definitely, I agree with you. That's a big challenge as to not being able to be in person. So both me giving like a direct cue, or like whether it's a hands-on adjustment or a verbal cue directly to that practitioner, that's definitely a challenge. So thank you for making that comment. Some of the positives: it's convenient. There's no traveling. It can be less expensive, meaning for those of us that are teachers, that there's no rental space. For those of us that are teachers, it might be a tax benefit as it's a home business. The technology is relatively easy to set up, thankfully, for, you know, the applications that exist, like video conferencing like we're doing right now. It's relatively easy to set up. The positive too, at least from my experience, is the self-management and the entrepreneurship. I personally like that part, the business side, but again, that can be either positive or negative depending on the person and just how you're looking at it, I guess. There's also the opportunity that I find is that you can build a stronger client base. So there's more consistency. People are able to practice more consistently with you. And then I can develop as a teacher a variety of classes and therapy options. So I basically can decide what works, which is also can be really fun. There's also the potential that there could be higher income. And for me, what I definitely love is that I get to teach more, because I get to I can teach more just being online, and like I said, it's convenient. So I do have another comment here. Oh, okay, so this is a point someone's making, is one of the challenges that they find for online is that there's no mirrors to observe like alignment and posture. Yeah, so that's sometimes challenging. Maybe you're going to have to put up a mirror. Like, but like, that's actually a very good point. A lot of times the studios or the gyms have like this huge wall of mirror, which sometimes is really helpful for us. And that kind of goes with different philosophies of yoga. So yoga philosophy sometimes is they don't actually have any mirrors in the room at all, because they actually want you to just feel your way through it, versus actually seeing yourself and judging yourself based on what you look like. So really that depends on each person. Oh, thank you for that comment. I actually, thank you for that comment, because that's actually going to go into my next point of feedback. So feedback. All right, so some positive feedback that I've received with the live online practices. So one of the comments that I got was, I feel stronger and in better health than ever before, because they're practicing more frequently than they ever have. I love the convenience of going from my home office to my home yoga studio, which I love that. During these times, I find yoga helps to reduce my stress and keep me sane, which again, these are all like really positive, amazing comments. And this is my only human connection for the week, so I really value the live classes. And then I have another comment here. I really find it, so like the individual workshop, individual therapy, that she had with me directly was very, very helpful. So thank you so much for that comment and that feedback. So yeah, like these are some things that I'm able to offer, which is great because now that we're online. And so the transition from online to, so in person to online, I have to say overall has been helpful for, you know, healthy living, healthy aging, because we've kind of, the resistance kind of happened, but then we've been able to transition into a seeing the benefits of it, you know, seeing that it's convenient, having the ability to practice more frequently throughout the week. So there are definitely some things that have been beneficial for this experience. You know, even being able to do one-on-one therapies online is a beautiful thing. You know, before it was like, oh, we have to try to make sure we find a space and making sure that it's safe, and all of these other things kind of play into a part with in person. But now we have the option to do both. At least I do anyway, which I like. Now I have a question for all of you before we're actually going to get to the Q&A, which you are all welcome to put in your question. So I have a question for you. How much is healthy aging worth to you? And if you have a number or how you can quantify it, its worth or value to you, I'd love to hear your comment on this. So basically from your, how do you feel, like how much is healthy, like aging well, aging in a healthy manner, how much is it worth to you? Okay, so I'm going to wait for comments, but as you guys are kind of thinking about it, if you guys want to put a little point in, and then I'm going to move, and then I'll come back to that in a second. So just to summarize, my definition, of course, of healthy aging is to live an optimal body, mind, social, spiritual life through learning, awareness, acceptance, prevention, and collective connection. It's an ongoing process and practice to raise behaviors that enhance joy, wisdom, faith, self-control, respect, kindness, and love for fully integrated well-being. And of course, what I really want to express is that self-care means that we have the ability to care for more for others and for our world. Again, in summary, just some things to consider if you are doing teaching, or even, you know, to considering like whether I go back to in-person or stay online. Deciding live versus recordings, finding a space, required equipment, the hardware and software, the technical, customer support, the entrepreneurship stuff that exists. So from a marketing to communication, setting a schedule, and managing all the yoga online etiquette, etc. Okay, so any comments in the chat? Okay, all right, great. So I find it really helpful on the internet. Okay, healthy aging is very important on a scale from 1 to 10. I would say it's 10. Someone said it's priceless, pretty much priceless, that it keeps the aches and pains at bay. That's a great comment. Hard to put a number to it. I would say priceless. 10, I'm gonna guess 1 to 10. It's essential for me. I see how unhealthy lifestyles affect people I work with and how healthy living has helped my family members. I want to continue that, and it's everything for me. Priceless, keeps me balanced and gives stamina. So thank you so much for those comments. And I agree as well, for me as well. I think healthy aging is absolutely priceless. A big reason why I study this is for that reason, is that I want to live a very long, healthy life. Based on my genetics, I will be living a long time. Both my grandmothers have lived, one lived into her 90s and the other one had just passed away not too long ago at 103. So based on my genetics, I'm going to live a long life. But I want to live also a very healthy, independent, you know, good life. So yeah. All right, and then absolutely important, enables me to enjoy my family and grandchildren, my hobbies, volunteer, and work. So yeah, I love that you say that, because, you know, I think that's what we all want, right? Is to kind of have that continued independence and values, to live our life, to be able to live life fully. It doesn't matter, you know, disease, if we've had surgery, anything that kind of arises, we still want to be able to live a full life, that we, as full as we can. So on that note, thank you so much. And I'm going to open the floor to any questions. So any general questions that you might have relating to aging, relating to yoga, feel free. You can put your name in if you want to ask the question directly to me, or you can put the question in the chat. Okay, any questions? And then I'm going to, you can stop the recording. So, all right, I'm just going to see here if there's anyone typing. I believe someone is. I'm not sure. Let me just check to see if anyone has their hand up. All right, so does anyone have any questions? I believe there is someone writing a question here. Did someone ask a question earlier? I'm not really too sure. Let me just go back here. Okay, so let me just stop the recording